Welcome to Voices from the Abyss. If you're listening tonight, you're not alone. Beneath every stretch of open water, there are depths we've never seen and things we've never discovered. Tonight's story begins in complete darkness, miles below the surface, where something ancient is still moving. So settle in, get comfortable, and listen closely, because far below you, something is awake. There are places beneath the ocean where sunlight has never touched. Places so deep that pressure becomes a gravity all its own. Where sound travels strangely, where distance stops being measurable. Commercial divers who work at these depths will tell you that the hardest part isn't the cold. It's the feeling that something is already down there waiting for you. The water at 900 meters looked black on the monitor. At 1800, it looked like space. By the time Elias Mercer crossed 2,400 meters, it looked solid. The dive helmet's lamp cut a pale cone through the dark as he descended slowly beneath the support vessel. Boots hanging beneath him, air hose and comm line trailing upward into the increasing distance above. Every movement of the old atmospheric suit came with a deep metallic groan that traveled through the helmet frame and into his skull.
"You doing all right down there, Mercer?"
crackled the voice in his ear.
"Still alive,"
Elias answered automatically. Static hissed softly through the comm line. The support vessel, the Orpheus, was far above him now, too far to imagine clearly. He knew intellectually that there were people up there watching his descent on monitors, drinking burnt coffee under fluorescent lights, occasionally glancing at the depth readings beside his name. But the deeper he went, the harder it became to believe in the surface. There was only darkness and the sound of his own breathing.
"Crossing 2,500,
he said.
"Copy that."
The wreck lay below him somewhere beyond the reach of his lamp. A steam freighter lost in 1912 during a winter crossing through the North Atlantic. No distress signal, no survivors. The ship had simply disappeared from the world one stormy night and remained missing for over a century until sonar finally caught its outline against the seabed 3 weeks ago. That alone would have made the dive important. But the sonar images had shown something else beside the wreck. Something shaped like a bell. Not attached to the ship. Not listed on any historical manifest. And resting upright on the ocean floor nearly 3,000 meters beneath the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. A dive bell. The old kind. Before modern submersibles. Before atmospheric rigs in titanium hulls and fiber optics. A chamber lowered from the surface with trapped air inside, just enough for men to breathe while they worked in the dark below. Crude, claustrophobic, the kind of thing that belonged in sepia photographs and maritime graveyards. Not here. Not at this depth. Elias adjusted the lamp angle slightly as he descended. The seafloor emerged slowly beneath him. Flat sediment, drifts of pale silt, fragments of collapsed timber. Then, the wreck. The freighter appeared out of the darkness so gradually, it was as if it was slowly being built into reality. A wall rising vertically from the seabed, swallowed in rust and marine growth. The bow had split open sometime in the last century, spilling debris across the sediment in a wide fan of broken cargo crates and collapsed beams. Elias touched down carefully. His boots sank slightly into the silt.
Surface, I'm on bottom.
Static. Then,
Copy, Mercer. Visual feeds coming through clear.
his helmet lamp swept slowly across the wreck. Collapsed railings, a winch frozen in rust, a lifeboat davit bent inward like a broken finger. And then the beam stopped. 30 meters off the port side of the wreck, half buried in sediment, stood the dive bell. Elias felt his stomach tighten. It was old. Not old in the way shipwrecks become old after decades underwater. Older than that. The metal surface was dark with corrosion, but beneath it, he could still make out the riveted brass plating and thick circular viewports clouded with mineral buildup. The design was wrong. Far too old for the depth. Far too old for the year that the freighter had sunk. And impossible for this part of the Atlantic. For a long moment, Elias simply stood there listening to his own breathing. Then something moved inside the viewport, very slightly, like someone shifting their weight in the dark. Elias froze.
Surface?
He said carefully.
I've got movement inside the structure.
Static answered him first.
Copy. Say again? There's something inside the bell.
A pause.
Mercer, thermal's not showing anything. Well, I'm looking at it.
The figure moved again. Slow. Human. Elias felt the deep, animal part of his brain begin quietly screaming at him to leave. The viewport was clouded with age and mineral deposits, but he could make out the shape well enough now. A helmet. Rounded shoulders. Something seated inside the bell, with its head tilted downward. Waiting.
This doesn't make any sense.
Elias whispered. No answer from the surface this time. Only static. His lamp flickered once. The figure inside the bell slowly raised its head. Elias took one involuntary step backwards, his boots sinking deeper into the silt. The helmet inside the bell was ancient, brass and copper green with corrosion. The faceplate was cracked completely through. And behind the broken glass, Nothing. No skull. No face. Only seawater drifting softly through the empty helmet. Then the figure stood. Not quickly. Not violently. It unfolded itself upward with the slow inevitability of something that had all the time in the world. Elias heard himself breathing harder now.
Surface,
He said.
surface, respond.
Static. Then faintly,
Mercer. Mercer?
Mercer.
the voice didn't sound right. The distortion was wrong somehow. Thick and wet. The figure inside the bell took one step forward. The entire structure groaned around it. A century-old hinge shrieked through the water as the bell's hatch slowly opened inward. Black water poured from the opening. The figure stepped out onto the seabed. Its movements didn't make sense for the depth. They were too smooth, too effortless. The old suit should have weighed hundreds of pounds. But it moved lightly across the sediment towards him. Elias stepped backwards again. The thing's lamp was still attached to its helmet, and suddenly, it turned on. A pale, yellow beam cut through the dark and landed directly on Elias. The comm line crackled. Then a voice whispered into his helmet.
Found you.
Elias stopped breathing because the voice hadn't come through the radio. It had come from directly behind him. He turned. Another dive helmet stood less than 3 feet away in the darkness. This one newer, its lamp off, its faceplate black. And as Elias stared at it, horrified and confused, he realized he was looking at himself. Same suit, same serial markings, same cracked scratch across the left side of the helmet glass from a welding accident 8 years ago. The duplicate tilted its head slowly, then raised one gloved hand and pointed towards the surface. The comm line screamed with static. Every light on Elias's suit went dead simultaneously. Darkness swallowed him whole. For several seconds there was nothing. No light, no orientation, only breathing. Then, far below him, another light appeared. A tiny yellow glow deep beneath the seabed itself. Then another, and another, and another. Hundreds of lights, old diving lamps, stretching downward into the abyss like a procession disappearing into hell. Elias heard movement around him in the dark. Heavy metal footsteps crossing sediment, dozens of them. The static in his helmet shifted. Voices layered over each other, whispering, breathing, some crying, and underneath all of it,
I found you.
One calm voice repeating the same phrase over and over again.
I found you.
Elias ran, or tried to. The old suit fought every movement, boots sinking into the sediment as panic finally broke through his training completely. He lurched blindly through the dark, one hand outstretched, searching for the wreck, for the ascent line, for anything. Something grabbed his air hose. Not hard, gentle, like a hand catching someone before they walk in the wrong direction. Elias screamed and tore himself free. His helmet lamp flickered weakly back to life. Just enough for him to see the dive bell again. There were people standing around it now. Dozens of them. Old dive suits from different centuries, different designs, different countries, all motionless, all facing him. And every helmet faceplate was empty. The comm line cleared suddenly, perfectly clear.
Mercer,
The surface operator said.
Mercer, your vitals just spiked. What's happening down there?
Elias stared at empty helmets. One of them slowly raised an arm and pointed behind him. Elias turned. The seafloor dropped away into a trench so deep his lamp couldn't touch the bottom. And rising slowly out of that trench, another dive bell. Larger than the first, impossible in size. Its surface covered in thousands of handprints pressed into the corroded metal from the inside. The hatch began to open. Elias ripped his emergency ascent tether free from his belt.
I'm coming up.
He gasped.
Now!
The surface operator was saying something, but Elias couldn't hear it anymore over the sound coming from below. Not mechanical, not animal. Breathing. A massive, slow inhale rolling upward through the black water beneath him. The giant bell opened another few inches, and from inside the darkness within it, something inhaled again. The last transmission received from diver Elias Mercer occurred at 3:17 local time. The ascent tether reached the surface empty. His suit was recovered 6 days later, drifting nearly 40 nautical miles from the wreck site. The helmet was sealed, filled completely with seawater, and packed tightly with wet black sediment containing shell fragments carbon dated centuries older than the wreck itself. Elias Mercer was never found. The wreck site has since been classified. No further dives have been approved. Thank you for listening to Voices from the Abyss. If you enjoyed tonight's story, make sure to follow so you don't miss what rises next. And if you find yourself near the water, listening, just remember, not everything beneath the surface is asleep. Good night.